Hey, beauty friends. This is Meredith from Beadalon and Artistic Wire. Welcome to class today. We have already a fantastic group in the Michaels Community Classroom. For those of you who are watching me after the fact on the Michaels YouTube channel, welcome to you as well. Hopefully, there will be some good interaction during class, but if you are watching after class as well, please feel free to be in touch with us at Beadalon if you have any additional follow-up questions. So Yvette is here in the chat room. She will be answering any questions that you want to write over in the chat. As things are scrolling by, I tend to be able to see and I will address them during class. But if I forget something or if I don't see it, she'll go ahead and interrupt me and make sure that I touch on whatever the answer is to your question. So this is going to be a little bit of a different class today. Usually we are a project-based class for our Beadalon classes for the Michaels Community Classroom. But today I wanted to take a couple of steps back and talk all about the different stringing materials that are out there. Now there are gazillions of different stringing materials. I am going to focus on the materials that Michaels carries. And I'll also talk about kind of the broader categories of stringing materials as well. I have examples shown for all of the materials that we're talking about today. And if you're interested in making those projects, they will either be upcoming Michaels Community Classroom projects or they will be posted on the Beadalon website. So just file that away if there's something that you see that you're really excited about and you want to learn how to make. Either, you can always send us a little message aside, but check those two classes, check those two places, the upcoming Michaels Community Classroom page, as well as Beadalon.com. We have a ton of classes over in the community or in the learning center on the Beadalon page. So you may be able to tell I'm very excited about this class today because I love solving beading problems. That would be my kind of hi everybody, I'm Meredith and I love solving beading problems. And that's a lot of the calls that we get at Beadalon are, what specific stringing materials should I use for this project? And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So the name of the class is, well, I have beads, now what? We're going to focus on that now what part. I have these beads. I want to make a project. What stringing material am I going to need? So what I would love to know from everybody who is watching over in the chat, if you feel like it, if not, that's okay too. But I would love to know what your favorite stringing material is. What is kind of your go-to medium for when you like to bead. And that just gives me a little idea of who's out there watching and some tips and tricks that I might want to focus on for that group. Now Finn is here under the table. I'm just scooching my chair in a little bit, making sure that I don't disturb him. He's giving me a silly look right now. He says hello, beady friends, as well. So we're gonna get right to it. We're gonna start at the very beginning with bead stringing wire. And we're going to go all the way through to the end. I'm thinking that our class might run a little bit over. And if I do go over the hour, I do apologize, but I think it's very important for all of the information to get out there. So I think I'm ready to go ahead and take that overhead camera. And I'm going to just bop that up a little bit and get it centered. And we are going to start at the very beginning. Now, as many of you probably know, some of you might not know, Beadalon as a company, we manufacture beading wire. So we have a wire mill in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour west of Philadelphia. And we actually make this wire. So the beading wire that I'm talking about is stranded cable. And you can see that it is, that this is what it looks like. It's stranded cable. It has a nylon coating on top of it. And it comes in 3 different strand constructions. So in class today, there will be some new vocabulary that I am going to throw out at you, and strand construction is one of those things. And again, in this kind of broad overview of all things stringing, lots of information, and that's why this class will be posted on the Michaels Community Classroom YouTube channel in about 24 to 48 hours. So you can go back and go over all of the things that I am talking about until you have them all committed to memory. So very quickly, 7, 19, and 49 strand. And one of the things that really sets the Beadalon wire apart from some of the other wires that are out there are that we give you all of the information you need to make jewelry on our packaging. So I keep mentioning 7, 19, and 49 strand. What that means is the number of individual strands of wire that are twisted together and coated with nylon. That means that it is ridiculously strong, incredibly durable, and when finished right, will make jewelry that can last an entire lifetime and beyond. It comes in a slew of different colors, but the next most important thing that you need to look at after you look at your strand count is your diameter. So here I have two different diameters. I have a 0.018 and a 0.014 diameter. That refers to how thick the wire is. So I think that you can see that the 024, which is on top, let me just get that into frame and focus, is thicker than the 018 on the bottom. Now, I'm not going to go into too much depth of the wheres and the whys, but clearly an 024 is going to hold more strength and be thicker than the 018. And the general rule is that you always want to fill your bead holes up as much as possible, so that you minimize the abrasion of the beads. For more information and a whole hour discussion on bead stringing wire, please go back and watch the 5 things you should never do while making beaded jewelry video that is posted on the Michaels Community Classroom YouTube channel. It is a fantastic soup to nuts, top to bottom, everything that you want to know about stringing and crimping and using bead stringing wire to make jewelry. So now I promised that there were designs that corresponded with all of these things. So a nice example of what to do with different beads would be to string them. Now, you might think that doesn't quite look like a strong necklace that I'm used to seeing. Well, that's because I have 3 separate strands that are all crimped. And again, for crimping instructions, we can go back and watch that video. But I have 3 separate strands all crimped together onto these rings. And then I used some chain as well to embellish this bracelet design, just something a little bit different. And I wanted to show that you can really do a lot with stringing that's more than just making a single strand necklace. So again, I have examples that are made with each of the stringing materials that we are going to do today, but we are not going to be actually making any of these designs. However, if there are designs that you think, oh my gosh, I need to make that right away, that has sparked your creativity, many of these will be upcoming Michaels Community Classrooms, or they will be posted on Beadalon.com in the Learning Center. And all of my color palette that I used to do these projects are all the Pantone colors of the year. So I went into Michaels, I grabbed all of the gray beads and all of the yellow beads that I could possibly find, including the John Bead seed beads. You'll see those projects coming up in a moment. And I used all of those beads to create the to create the design. So that was a lot of fun to do. So that's our first stringing material, is beading wire. And that is my go-to for many of my beading projects, because it is strong, it's long lasting, it's easy to finish off by crimping, and it's very, very versatile. All right, so I'm going to, as I'm going through them, I'll put my materials to the side. So the next material that I wanted to talk about is German style wire and artistic wire. And I had my spool of artistic wire. Here it is, right here. So for this, I used that same color palette, and I did a wrapped loop bracelet. I think almost everything that I did for this, it was really kind of a challenge to me to do all of this designing. But I used German style wire for this bracelet. Now we have an upcoming Michael's Community Classroom class that, if you are interested in wire work, I would highly, highly recommend that you sign up for. What that class is going to do is go over every single gauge of wire that Michael's carries, and talk about what to make with those different gauges of wire. And we're going to be making little trinkets and doodads in that class. So that will be really, really fun. But one of the most common questions is, well, what is the difference between artistic wire and German style wire? Well, of course, besides the packaging, that is an obvious thing. But there is a pretty significant difference between Beadalon wire, or I'm sorry, between German style wire and artistic wire. And that can be seen right here on the back of the package. Now, again, I told you there would be some new vocabulary words for some people today. And I'm just trying to get that into focus. So you'll have to trust me that up here, it says full hard. I wonder if I tip it up like that. That's a little bit better, right? So full hard is at the very top of this hardness scale, and dead soft is at the very bottom of the hardness scale. And what that refers to is how malleable this wire is. So artistic wire is all the way down here at the bottom where it says dead soft. That is the softest, most malleable, most easily bent wire. Then up here a little bit between dead soft and half hard, kind of in a quarter hard, is where you will find much of the German style wire that has a copper core. So it's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not to scale. Where these breaks are in the hardness scale, I would put the German style wire a little bit closer to the half hard. So why that matters is when you are thinking about the strength that you need for your wire wrapping project. But in addition to the strength that you need, you also need to think about how it's going to affect your hands. So one of the things that when I see people talking about the different kinds of wire, it isn't talked about as much as I think it is important. Because when I'm doing a lot of wire work, it really affects my hands. I say that the wire is owie, and why it always makes fun of me for that. But it's true. If you're doing these repetitive movements and you're making lots and lots of wraps and you're moving this wire around, you do need to be cognizant of whether or not you're using half-hard wire or a wire that is softer. I also recommend that when you are practicing a new technique, a softer wire is better to practice with. But once again, in a couple of weeks, soup to nuts, everything on all kinds of wire. But to make a design like this, something that is nice and airy, that shows off this beautiful wire, that has these gorgeous wraps in between them with these different stations of beads. This, like I said, I used German style wire for. Oftentimes they can be used interchangeably, but for example, I would not use artistic wire on this class because this is a place where there's tension, right? There's always tension on the class. So you want your wire to be more of a half hard wire rather than a dead soft wire. And a lot of this comes from just trial and error, playing around with things and seeing what you like best. Because once again, and if you've taken classes with me before, it's almost starting to sound like a broken record, but what works best for one person might not necessarily work best for all people. And that's why we have a lot of different options, because we want to make beading accessible for everybody. So my next material to talk about is memory wire. So this is the large bracelet memory wire. There is also a smaller bracelet memory wire and an oval memory wire as well, because our wrists aren't round, our wrists are oval, right? And memory wire is great because it acts like a slinky, right? It holds its shape. It is stainless steel. You can also find the silver color. This is the stainless steel color. The silver color is actually carbon steel. So why does that matter? Stainless steel is a little more heavy duty than carbon steel is. That's the difference there. But the trade-off is that you get that nice silver plating. But with memory wire, I'm gonna take this bracelet off. With memory wire, you get this really nice bangle bracelet effect. It is a very affordable material, and it is it's so versatile. And I love how I was able to make this really fun color block bracelet in about 10 minutes. And then all you do on the ends of the memory wire, there are a couple of different ways to finish it off, but here all I did is I did a double coil over it. I just wrapped 2 little coils. And my favorite thing to do for memory wire, although I did not do that in this particular bracelet, is to hang tassels, hang charms, hang dangles, hang all kinds of fun things to really take that design to the next level. So, and again, all different kinds of beads. The only challenge that you will have, maybe not the only challenge, but one challenge that you might have when you're working with memory wire is because it is a coil, you have to be cognizant of what shape and how long your beads are, right? Because if you had a big, long, flat bead, it's not going to fit over that curve in the memory wire, right? It's going to flatten out. The other thing that I really like using memory wire for is threading into like tubes of seed bead designs, and we'll see that coming up to give it more form and more rigidity. So again, so many different things that you can do with these materials. I'm just giving a real basic overview in how you use them and what you would use them for. Now, the challenge that you'll find with memory wire is that it is very difficult to bend without breaking. This is it's even off the scale of dead hard, or of full hard, excuse me, off the scale of full hard, because it isn't a shaping wire. So you can't really bend it into a shape, for example, to make a name. You could, it is not the material that I would recommend to do that. However, it's best suited for bangle bracelets like this. And you can even use it for really big hoops for earrings. It's a different class for a different time. Okay, so my next material, and now we're getting into more of the fiber stringing materials, away from wire and into really true stringing materials. And the first one that I want to talk about is silk. Now, a couple weeks ago, I did a class where we learned how to restring our grandmother's pearls. And that is a great class. It's been posted. And I used the Beadalon knotting tool, which is right over here. I'm going to try to grab it without bumping my camera too badly. This is the Beadalon knotter tool, also available in Michael's. And you see how smushy, I don't know what other way to say it, but just how soft and silky and malleable this this knotted piece is. And you can see these aren't even pearls, right? I took the gray silk, this is a size 6 silk from the variety pack. Oh, just this needle attached over there. Number 6 silk, the 100% silk bead cord. And I used that to knot in between these beads. And I know it's tough to see, especially if you're looking on a small screen, but I actually only knotted here. And then I did 1, 2, 3, and then here, and 1, 2, 3. So it's just one of those things that it's very versatile, and it creates this drapey, smooth, just soft material, soft beaded material. Does not necessarily need to be used for pearls. And so I had this, we also picked up this really nice pendant that I believe are on sale, don't quote me on that, at Michael's right now. And I just thought, again, using that same Pantone color palette that I'm working with for all of these designs. So a couple things to note when you are working with silk, it comes in 2-meter lengths. And that is a good working length. Anything longer than the 2 millimeters is really, it's really going to become unwieldy and easily knotted. And you want your knots to be where you put them, not necessarily where they want to go out on their own accord. So using anything longer than that 2 meter really gets unwieldy. That 2 meter will make a very long necklace, because I can get 2 16-inch knotted pearl or bead necklaces out of one of these cards. Now, I couldn't move on without just mentioning a couple things about the silk cards, or the silk cord. First of all, I'm just gonna pull one of these ones out. They come with a needle attached, and that is a huge, why wasn't this coming out? Here, I have one right here, all ready to go. They come with a needle attached. Let's move that out of the way so we can actually see what I'm talking about. And the needle comes out, and it can oftentimes, it can be a little bent. It's just because it gets wrapped around. In order to straighten that needle out, all you need to do is use some nylon jaw pliers and just kind of gently, I'm not doing such a great job of gently straightening it out, but just gently straighten it out, and it should straighten. You can also, if it's not enough, you can also kind of wiggle it back and forth with your fingers. And then it does not need to be perfectly straight in order to work. The second thing that you absolutely positively need to do with your silk before you use it is you need to stretch it. So there are a couple of different ways that you can stretch it. The one that I use is I will actually take this silk and I will loop it over a doorknob and then lean back. And you're actually not stretching it. What you're doing is you're compressing that twist. You can see that twist right there. When it comes off of the machine, the twist kind of gets bunched up together, and you just need to compress that twist so that the silk relaxes. Because if you don't do it before you knot your silk. What will end up happening is it will do it itself over time with the hanging of your pendant. And then you'll get little gaps in between your beads, and nobody likes having gaps in between their beads. So again, just straighten it out with the nylon jaw pliers. And just gentle. You don't want to pull the needle off the silk, and it doesn't need to necessarily be 100% ramrod straight. All you need is to get those kinks out so that you can put your beads on. Now, there are different sizes of silk. 2 will be the smallest or the thinnest silk, and I believe 6 is the thickest that Beadalon carries, but in the world, you can actually get as small as size 0 and all the way up to a size 20 on these cards that have this. I just have it wrapped around a bead tube case. On these cards, there we go, because it's pre-needled and twisted together. So I never use anything other than this kind of silk to knot my pearls, because life is too hard. I don't need to make it any harder. Beadalon has made it easy by creating the pre-needled silk, and that is all we need. Okay, so let's see what's next in my goodie bag of stringing materials. Ooh, okay. This was one of my favorite projects to make. So we are going to be, now I'm talking about Nymo thread. Now pretend, I know you can't see it because it's invisible, but there are actually 4 spools in here. Oh, here's the other spool. I don't want people to think that there are only 3 spools in the Nymo variety pack. There are in fact 4. That's the one that I used for our project today. And this is what I made. Now, Nymo is a more traditional, I would say. Wanda, I will send you all of the spools of invisible thread that I can find. They'll be coming in an invisible package. So this is what's called a Cellini spiral. This is a project that I believe I just posted on Beadalon.com. And I used the Nymo thread for this project. And I'm glad that I did, because it is actually not the thread that I would have chosen generally. And I'll tell you why. And this will give a couple of clues as to some of the challenges and some of the strengths of Nymo. And that's one of the takeaway messages that I want everybody to get from class today, is whenever you're choosing a stringing material, there will be pros and cons, there'll be trade-offs. So in one case, you are going to be trading off pierceability. In another case, you are going to be trading off strength. So in this case with Nymo is very affordable. It is available in tons of different colors. It is available in a number of different diameters. However, the challenge with Nymo, in my opinion, is twofold. The first is that you have to condition it. So you have to pull it out, you have to stretch it just like the silk, and then you need to use some sort of a thread conditioner. So whether you use some beeswax, or whether you use one of the synthetic thread conditioners that are out there in the market, you definitely need to condition it. That's what conditioning is. You run it through or along some beeswax, and it makes it more easy to work with. That's really what the bottom line. Now, my challenge that I have with Nymo is that I find it very easy to be pierced with a needle. And why does that matter? That matters for many, that matters a lot when you are doing stitching like this. For example, if you need to go back through, for example, especially in Cellini spiral, if you put the wrong bead on and you need to undo your beading path, I find it very challenging to do that without piercing my thread. And it ends up kind of becoming a big old mess, a big old jumble of thread. Similarly, when you're doing your stitching, you just need to be attentive to the fact that if you pick up or you go through that that stringing material with your needle, it's going to pierce it. So it's just, again, very affordable, variety of colors, strong material, thin material, which is also very important when you're going through things many, many times. However, you definitely need to be aware and be cognizant that one, you have to condition it, and two, you have to be very careful not to pierce it. And I think that's all I have to say about that. Okay, and if anybody does have any questions about these materials, for those of you who are watching the live, please feel free to jot them down in the chat, and either I will be able to see it or Yvette will be able to answer it. Okay, so the next material that we are going to talk about is my favorite. Yes, and those of you who hang out with me on my Facebook Lives and on the classes here know that I do play favorites. Wildfire is my absolute favorite stringing material of choice when I'm doing bead weaving. And if I was making this bracelet, not for class or not for an example, I would have done that with Wildfire, because of Wildfire's inherent strengths and properties. First of all, it is available in two different diameters, and a 0.006 diameter and a 0.008 diameter. I like the 0.006 for bead weaving because it is nice and thin. There's a lot more that comes on the spool. I have used a lot of this Wildfire. It is very thin. It does not need to be conditioned. It does not need to be pre-stretched because it will not stretch. And it has a thermally bonded coating on it. So it is very, very difficult to pierce with a needle. And those are the things that are important to me when I am doing my bead weaving. And you can see I use those colors again, those Pantone colors of the year, with these really fun size 11 seed beads from John Bead. Got some delicas coming in the middle. The pattern for this bead is definitely on the Beadalon website, not in this colorway, but you can certainly recreate the colors. And then I just have a head pin strung through the center, and then I made a little loop there on the top. And I think I actually made my own ear wire. And again, for the wire working class, we're going to talk all about those kinds of things. The most important tip that I can give for using the Wildfire is learning how to cut it the right way. And I'm going to take a moment and show you that right now. Just going to get up for 1 second. I want to grab a spool of black, because it will be much easier to see what I'm doing with the spool of black than the spool of white. So this is 0.008 in black. So it will be just a little bit thicker for you to be able to see. So I'm just finding the end. And you always want to make sure that when you cut your Wildfire, that you are using very sharp scissors. And I always make sure that with my sharp scissors that I hold that Wildfire as far back in the jaws as I can. And see how I'm kind of pulling down on it? I almost didn't even need to cut. I just pulled it down, and it gave me a really nice sharp cut. The next thing that you need to do is when you are going to thread your needle, you want to take your chain nose pliers and flatten that tip. Okay, see how it's nice and flat now? And I can even probably get it a little bit flatter to show. And so now that I have that tip nice and flat, I can come in here and grab a needle. And the way that I say I'm going to needle my thread, I'm not going to thread my needle. And this is the jewel loom needle that I'm using. It's nice and big, but this technique works for any needle. So I have that little teeny tiny part pinched in between my thumb and my forefinger, and I'm just going to slide the needle over the Wildfire. And if you have a size 10 needle or a size 12 needle, it works also. This one happens to be the jewel loom needle, which is a little bit of a longer needle that I really like using for of course, working on the jewel loom, which is a loom, or actually beaded fringe. This is another thing that I really like this needle for, because it's nice and long and it allows me to do a lot with fringe, which would have been a good example to give for class today as well. But maybe we'll do a whole class on fringe. I really like fringe. It's super fun. Oh, you know what? I did do fringe. See, I'm already thinking ahead of myself. Okay, so that's Wildfire. Waterproof, stretch proof, fade resistant, color doesn't come off on your hands. Really, really fabulous, strong, durable material. And again, it is my go-to for all bead weaving and all looming. And I apologize, it's clearly some of my spools are older than other ones. But again, this is my go-to for all bead weaving, all stitching, and you'll see me teaching with it a lot. And once again, just make sure that when you're threading any needle, including this jewel loom needle, that you just want to make sure that you flatten that end and it will go into your needle, no problem. Or a lot easier than not doing it, because I know a lot of us struggle with needling our thread or threading our needles, and so that's a really good tip that works for most all stringing materials. Okay, so we did Wildfire. Now we are up to Beadalon, which is another one of my favorite stringing materials, quite frankly. This is what the Beadalon looks like. It is a Tex 210 upholstery thread, or upholstery weight thread, and it comes in several different colors, and it is great for, as Yvette put into the comments, macrame and knotting. And this project was done on the tying station, which is one of my favorite Beadalon tools. I'm just gonna come on over here and grab one really quickly. Apologies, I'm definitely having a squirrel kind of a day, where I want to make sure that that everybody can see the best tools also. Sarah Ellis, who is another designer for Beadalon, who teaches in the Michaels Community Classroom, she uses the tying station for a lot of her projects. And this is what it looks like. And I love that whenever I show the tying station, I can never fit it into the full frame close enough because it's such a big tool. But that is the tool that I used for to make this bracelet. And this is one of my favorite techniques, and my favorite things to do is to take friendship bracelets, right? Macrame bracelets like I made when I was a kid, and grown-up-ize them. Fancy them up, add a nice button closure, do a really nice macrame around clasp. Just ways to take things and techniques that I loved making as a kid and take them to the next level that now I am in. Now that I'm a grown-up, well, don't tell, but I try not to act like one, but I guess I am. So this is the project that this is the tool. Let me just pop this up just a little bit so you can see the whole thing. And this is called the tying station. And again, plenty of classes coming up in the Michaels Community Classroom, and plenty of classes in the archives of the community classroom as well. Okay, so that is Beadalon. Great for macrame, great for using on a loom, either the jewel loom or a more traditional loom, and really even great for stringing. And everything that I'm showing today is available at Michaels and on michaels.com. Okay, we're coming down the home stretch. We're not nowhere near finished, but we are coming down the home stretch. And we are going to show one of my other favorite stringing materials, and this is the Dandelion. Now I'm actually going to take Wildfire back out and put them side by side, because at the core, they are the same material. They are very, very strong, even super strong, according to the label, braided material. This is actually the same stuff that bulletproof vests are made out of. However, the difference between Dandelion, okay, so let's talk about the similarities first. Similarities are they're both waterproof. They both will not stretch. They are both fade resistant. Both their colors will not come out onto your hands as you are working with them. The difference is that Wildfire has a coating on top of it. Let's see. So Dandelion is on this side. It's my left. I don't know what side you're seeing it on. This is the Dandelion side, and this is the Wildfire side. So you can just see that subtlest of difference where the Wildfire is coated. And what that means, because that Wildfire has that coating, is that it is very difficult to pierce with a needle. So the Dandelion, again, we were talking about it with the with Nymo, is pierceable with a needle. And for me, as a beader and as a bead weaver, that makes a big difference. However, the challenge that I find with Wildfire is that when I am trying to make things that are fringy and dangly, the Wildfire can tend to be a little too stiff. So if I want something that is going to be dangly and fringy and yet still very strong, that won't stretch, you want to use the Dandelion if you want it to be dangly and fringy. The Wildfire is great for stitching. So up on this part, that would be a perfect application for Wildfire, except I wanted to use the same material for the whole project. So again, for nice drape, like in these brick stitch earrings with the fringe, Dandelion is going to be the perfect material for that. And I also just wanted to point out here on the top how I use these wire guardians. So I created the brick stitch, I created the fringe, and then I have this wire guardian here that just adds that nice little extra something to attach the ear wire to. And again, this project is posted on Beadalon.com, and you'll be able to find the instructions there if you like. So Dandelion is more similar to Nymo in its drapeability, but Nymo does tend to stretch out over time, whereas Dandelion will not. Dandelion is also, and Wildfire are different from a monofilament, which is a nice segue into our next material, which is Supplemax, which actually is a true monofilament. And all that means is that it is one filament, right? Mono, one, back from our SAT prep days. Whereas Wildfire and Dandelion are actually braided together. So Supplemax is a great place I find that people start with their jewelry making journey. There are several, okay, to take a breath, Meredith. There are several different diameters of Supplemax that of course are going to be thicker or thinner depending on what you want to do. But my favorite thing to do with Supplemax is to make illusion necklaces. So it's kind of an old school style, but it's just the perfect floating necklace. If we ever have the opportunity to go out again and have a party atmosphere, it really does just add a small bit of drama to a little black dress, to a cocktail, not a cocktail dress or a cocktail, if you want to dress up your wine glasses, that's a great idea too. The thing about the monofilament is because it is one filament, you could, especially with the technique that I have used here with these little crimps, it is easier to cut through it, right? Because it's a monofilament, it's just one filament, it's a little piece of filament, of nylon, that can be cut. But if you're careful with your crimping, and like I was careful with my crimping between and around these beads, this necklace will be fine in terms of its durability. I will have to be careful when I store it though, because I don't want it to get tangled up. So again, trade-offs, pluses, minuses, things that you need to just be aware of with all of the different stringing materials and when and in which designs you want to use them. So I have, you can see these are size 0 crimp tubes, and they are available in the variety pack. But these are the size 0s, and I do just have them flattened, which I generally don't recommend. This is one of the only times that I think that it is acceptable to flatten your crimps. But again, you can't use a death grip on them because it will cut through the material. Okay. And I think that is all that I need to say about Supplemat. And we're at our very last stringing material, friends, and that is Elasticity. Now, Elasticity is a stretch cord. Our brand actually is not available in Michaels. It had been available online at Michaels, and I'm not 100% sure if it will be again, but I did want to mention stretch cord in general as a category of bracelet making or of jewelry making, because it's a big one, right? It's a big category. And this is just a double strung, or I'm sorry, a double two-hole beads, a double hold bead. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can see the 2-hole beads right there. These are these really fun and funky, what are these guys called? Tile beads. And I love how a stretch bracelet just comes on and off. You don't have to worry about a clasp. You don't have to worry about any hardware or anything. And you can really string up almost anything onto Elasticity or onto a stretch material. The one thing that I would mention with any stretch material, whether it be Elasticity or another brand, is you always have to, and again, this is kind of a theme on our stringing materials segment today, is you always have to pre-stretch your Elasticity. Again, it's just the way that it's made. It goes up onto the spool. You need to take out that extra stretch, or else it will sag over time. Now, of course, you don't want to stretch it so much that you break it, because that can happen if you're super, super strong. But if you do pre-stretch it, if you string it up nicely and you do a good knot, it should be a pretty strong stringing material. So what I recommend using, if my bead holes are large enough to string my design up on stretch cord, is this elastic cord needle. There is a loop on one end, and it's a little hard to see, but we're going to make it work, a hook on this end. And what you do with that hook is you actually hook it over your stretch material so that you can transfer your beads from the needle to your stretch material. I'm just going to show that really quickly because we have a couple of minutes here at the end. And I like showing the elastic cord needle because not everybody knows that it exists. However, there are a couple things that you need to be aware of when using the elastic cord needle. Is you need to make sure that your bead holes are large enough to fit over it. And you also need to be very, very careful when, see now, this one I'm trying to put on and my bead hole is not large enough. So I'm just going to set that bead aside and choose a different one. The other thing that you need to be very, very careful of, and again, this is a tool just like any other. So you need to make sure that when you slide your pre-stretched elastic over that hook, when you're moving your beads from one end to the other, you just want to make sure that you are being gentle, because this little hook here is less than half of 1 millimeter, because it's using this 1 millimeter stainless steel and it's bent over on itself. It's grinded down first and then bent over on itself. There we go. Just trying to get a nice little angle there. Now we can see it. So you don't want to force these beads over it, because that's a little teeny tiny piece of metal there. And while it doesn't want to break, if you force it, it could break. And then that's sad for everybody. So now all I need to do is unhook it. And if I wanted to add an extra bead or two, if my necklace or my bracelet ended up not being as long as I want it, I can just add a couple more beads, slide that in there, and pull this off like that. Okay. Now there are a couple of different ways to tie a knot for the for elasticity, or for any stretch material for that matter, and it can be a challenge. There are a couple of tricks that I can offer for tying a knot. The first one, I actually like to, sometimes I will do a double strand of elastic cord through my beads, because I find that threading through a loop on one side and tying a knot is my strongest way of finishing it. And I have a number of different instructions and videos on how to do that over on Beadalon.com. But what we recommend a couple of different things for our knots, but the easiest is a figure 8 knot, where you come, see if I can show this really well. So I've pre-stretched my material. I'm going to come around and up and through the hole. And it is the knot that we recommend here on the back of our packaging. And then once you've done that, you can pull it down from the top like this to cinch it up. But the most important thing that I have found in tying knots in elastic cord is you want to not only tighten it from the top, but if you can, and you should be able to, get in here and tighten it from the bottom as well. I think that's one of the things that challenges people, is that bottom tightening up. That really should get you a nice tight knot. And the last thing is, if you want to feel even more secure in your elastic cord knot, is to go in with a little dab of bead stringing glue to seal that knot. And remember, when you use your bead stringing glue, and again, those of you who take my classes a lot know this tip and can probably say it along with me. Instead of squeezing, you never want to squeeze these guys. And really, for any glue that comes in a tube like this, the Hypo Cement, Beadalon bead stringing glue, there are a couple of other brands out there. What you want to do is just hold it in your hand and let the warmth from your hand allow that glue to start flowing. Otherwise, you'll end up with a big gluey gloppy mess. But if you do it like this, just let your hand, the warmth from your hand, warm up that glue. You'll just get a little bead, which is all you need. You just need the littlest bit, and just dab it on there, let it dry off, and then you should be in business. Oh my goodness. Well, that was the last stringing material for us to talk about today. We have gone through and gone over so many different stringing materials. We started with Beadalon wire. We talked about German style wire and artistic wire. We talked about memory wire. We learned about silk. Where did my silk go? We learned about silk. We learned about NYMO, and some of the challenges and some of the good parts about the NYMO. We learned about my favorite stringing material, Wildfire. Let's try that again. We learned about my favorite stringing material, Wildfire. We learned about my second favorite stringing material, the Beadalon. We talked about Dandelion and how it is similar to and different from Wildfire, and how the best thing I think is that it drapes so nicely. We also talked about Supplemax, which is where a lot of people start off their jewelry making journey before they move on to bead stringing wire. And then we talked about stretch cord and all of the different benefits of using stretch cord for our design. So I told you at the very get-go that this was going to be a class with a lot of information. And Raina, I think we're ready to take the forward-facing camera once again to say our goodbyes. So, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted. I hope that I was able to at least give a broad overview of all of the different stringing materials that are available. And really, it's a small fraction of all of the different stringing materials that are available. And when you walk through your local Michaels store, you'll see all of the different materials that are at your disposal. But hopefully this kind of sparked some of your curiosity and some of your creative juices, so that you'll know when different classes get posted using these different materials, if it's something that is of interest to you. So once again, I'm Meredith from Beadalon and Artistic Wire. We teach our classes on Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock, and sometimes on Saturdays at 2 o'clock. Sarah Ellis joins us as well to teach. We have different styles, some overlap, but I always learn something from watching her and from taking classes from all of the other amazing makers from the Michaels Community Classroom. So if you are watching me live, thank you so very much for joining me. If you are watching on the replay, fantastic. You can fast forward and rewind as many times as you want. Make sure that when you make something from any of these materials, be sure to post it on your socials and use a hashtag of Beadalon, and hashtag make it with Michaels, so that we can see all of the things that you make. You can follow Beadalon at Beadalon on Instagram, and then of course at Michaels Stores. And then if you want to hang out with me anymore, I am at Meredith Joy Designs on Instagram, and I'd love to have you follow me and we can be friends over there as well. So that's it for me today. I will see you next time on the Michaels Community Classroom, and until then, happy beading.